So some of you are attending this meeting for your first time. Some of you just moved into Still Hopes. We welcome you. We're glad you're here. So the format of this fireside chat and the purpose of it is just to give you a chance to talk to me. So it's about you getting what you need and you asking me what you want to know. So that's the forum. I didn't come with a set agenda. I do have a couple of things I wanted to say. Sometimes you'll find that I do have something like that, and other times you'll find I don't. Sometimes lots of people have lots of questions, and we spend the time answering them. Sometimes it begins to get quiet really soon, and then I just talk. So it's all sorts of things like that. But the actual format is for you to be able to get the questions you have answered. I won't guarantee you an answer today because I won't make one up. If I don't know the answer, I will tell you that I'm going to write down the question, and the next time we meet, I'll provide the answer. Is that fair? Okay, so that's the way this kind of goes. It's real informal. Anybody can talk anytime you want to. I'll try to recognize people if you'll raise your hands. That makes it a little easier sometimes, but usually it's a little slow to get going. So anybody got a burning question already? Okay. I came with a couple of things to say, so I'll just go ahead and say those things now. Number one, y'all all know, because we've talked about it and you can see it and you can feel it, that Still Hopes is struggling to have enough staff here to take care of everything that we want to do the way we want to do it. That is happening to us. It's also happening to every retirement community that we talk to across the country. I just came back from a few days in Savannah, Georgia, and it's happening to businesses in Savannah, Georgia, to the point some are closed. Many have altered their hours, shortened their hours, and done things like that because nobody can find staff. Does anybody know the number one reason why we're having trouble finding staff? Our opinion, of course. I don't know the fact, but my opinion and the opinion of my peers is that we're paying them too much to stay home. And that's been approved all the way through September. So I can't promise you that we're going to see our staffing situation get much better until we see that we stop paying people to sit home. We are going to try. We're going to continue to try. We're going to continue to come up with new ideas that include some things that cost money. We are spending, that's the other thing, let me tell you, is Still Hopes is not saving any money during this time. We're spending the money. We're having to pay people overtime. We're having to recruit harder. We're having to pay for things we never paid for before. And it's expensive to do all those things. So if you wonder where your hard-earned money is going when you pay it to us, I guarantee you our costs have actually gone up, not down. And we are working through that the best we can. But I think we can recover from this. As a matter of fact, I know we can. But we got to have some cooperation first out of the land inside the Beltway up in the place called DC, because we need for them to help us to be able to staff the people we need. Last week I was in a meeting, several meetings with senators and congressmen, and we do that once a year as a state and as a nation from our association. Last week was our week. We did all of our lobbying. We did all of it virtually. Usually we go to Washington to do that. And I can tell you, everybody we talk to, which are the Republicans, which are South Carolina politicians, say you're talking to the choir, we got it, we understand, and we're doing all we can, but they're not hopeful that anything can be done short of that September date. And we heard several say there's a lot of anticipation on the Hill that it may get extended even further. So whoever you know, wherever you know folks that can help with that, we need discussions and talk going on in DC to try to get it where people want to and need to come back to work and be productively employed. And I do understand, I mean, we talked about that this morning in our department director meeting. In South Carolina, a worker can stay home right now and get $636 a week in unemployment benefits. If we pay somebody $15 an hour, we're paying them less than that.
How long does that amount last?
It lasts, well, it's been passed by Congress to run through September of this year, if they don't extend it. And that's the $300 add-on. So what should have been a $336 payment to stay home is $636. Right now, folks are still also able to do that if they just say it's a COVID-related reason. I have a child who can't go to daycare because of COVID. I have whatever their reason is. And they don't have to look for jobs other than the job they left, so they can wait for that job to come back if it's a job that disappeared because of COVID. Most of those things have gone away now in our area. And I do understand there are industries that are in trouble. There are hundreds of thousands of people, I'm told, that work inside the cruise industry that are U.S. citizens. Those folks don't have jobs right now, by and large. And I get that. And I do feel for them, and I do understand why the feds feel the need to do something to help them and to keep them from losing everything they've got, while these cruise ship businesses try to figure out how to come back alive. But that's not helping us. It's killing us. So anything, however you feel about it, whatever you think is the right thing to do, call your senators, call your congressmen, especially if you know some Democrats, call them, because I understand that vote was down the party line. And that's what we heard from all of our Republican senators and congressmen was, we voted no, we'll vote no next time, but we don't carry the vote right now. I saw a hand back here.
Isn't immigration another issue?
Immigration probably is another issue. We've talked about that some as well. It would help us, especially with the nursing shortage. There are some areas in the world where we could hire and attract some well-qualified nurses if we had immigration rules that were allowing that to happen. We used to have those. Some of the nonprofits in our country specialized in recruiting and bringing those nurses into the country for some of us to employ and use. That's a door that's been closed for quite a little while now, but yes, in some regards that would help. So that's staffing. Without killing that one, I'll leave it. Wellness, some things are beginning to change for the Wellness Center. You're going to see a memo coming out that's going to help you know that we're going to allow fully vaccinated community members to come back to the Wellness Center. So that's going to be some of those folks. There are over 100 of them that have memberships that they pay for to our Wellness Center. They've been gone for over a year. Their memberships have been suspended. There are, I think, about 8 or 9 of them that have asked for their money back and went somewhere else. The rest are waiting for Still Hopes because this is where they want to do their exercise. But we're gonna bring them back, but only if they're fully vaccinated, okay? So if you see those people begin to appear, and again, you'll get a memo about this, but just want to give you a heads up. Also discussion beginning about staff being able to reuse the Wellness Center. That's a benefit of working at Still Hopes, is a free membership for staff, but they've been locked out for over a year as well. That again, when it comes back, and it's probably just a little ways off yet, but when it does come back, it'll be for fully vaccinated staff. We will start there, and then we'll see where we go from there. But we're going to start always with fully vaccinated so that you folks who live here and who are almost 100% fully vaccinated can understand and know that when you're in there, you'll be with like-minded people, okay? That's the things I had on my agenda. What other questions do y'all have? So the question is, what's going on, and can I talk a little bit about what's going on with the school district property, which is to our immediate west, and it borders a common property line with us. And what's going on there is we have acquired that property. We've acquired it through a structured buyout, so we have made what's called a down payment. The school district continues to occupy that building. They are building a new office building in Casey, out on the 12th Street extension. Groundbreaking is expected anytime for that. They're still working through a couple of things with the city of Casey on their building permit. But they've hired the architect, plans are pretty well done, and they're ready to start. They believe that they will make their move from the property here to their new office building in August of 2023. So that would be our timeline for when we would take possession. So like I said, we've made one small payment to them. We make one more payment between now and when they vacate, and then we finish paying for the land when they vacate. We intend to reuse that property, if the way be clear, pretty soon after that. So we'll begin our planning. Again, if the way be clear, we'll begin our planning probably late 2022, early 2023, so that we're kind of ready to know what we're going to do. And
That's a long time from now.
it'll be here before you know it, though. Yeah, it's almost as a long time from now, but that is, it seems like a long time, but I know how fast time goes when you start making plans and having to figure out what you're going to do. Now, we do have a land plan already for that property, And we have a planned unit development zoning in place. That's, if you've heard it called a PUD, that's the way it's been designed. The reason for a PUD is it tells the city exactly the things we're going to do. It doesn't tell them to the nuance of it'll be an exactly 5-story building with 13 apartments per floor, but it tells them we'll put about this many apartments and about this many cottages, and we'll have these sorts of amenities so that they understand what we can do, which means it also says what we can't do. So if we said we're going to put a restaurant, we can, but if we didn't say we were going to put a gas station, we can't. Okay? So that's the comfort the neighbor gets, is that they know what we're going to do. So that's all been approved and is in place for that day. And we did a market study before we ever bought the land, and there is a market for a middle market sort of community for that property that exists today. We'll have to redo that. And that's why I say, if the way be clear, we'll have to redo that when we're ready to actually begin to pre-sell and market that, to be sure that somebody else hasn't come in while we're in our holding pattern and already done something that would cause us to need to hold a little longer. But so far, nothing that we know of in the community is going on that would change the numbers. That is the PUD that we have approved, and it's to build apartments and cottages, more retirement housing. We would do amenities in the building that's there now. So we'd remodel that 24,000 square foot building that stands there now to do amenities for that community. What we're planning there is a middle market community. So lower entrance fees, less amenities. So it's not an amenity rich community like Still Hopes, but it is an amenity community for middle market seniors. So now, your question now is about the daycare program we're planning for Still Hopes. That's a different piece of property. That is another vision of Still Hopes, is to create a child care facility. That's on 4.5 acres of land that we own now, that is in Casey, that also abuts our property, but it backs up to the current cottage program down near the solutions office, which is just a 4.5 acre site that's covered in trees. That's where the child care center goes. We started a fundraising effort there, even hired the consultant who would run the campaign. And then this thing called COVID happened, and then the stock market did what it did, and the board put that program on hold till we get a little further along. The board is in consideration now of restarting that capital campaign and we're committed to doing a project. We own the land. We have not drawn the plans to the building, but we're going to do that while we're raising the funds through the capital fund drive. So yes, that will happen. So the question is, are we looking at any kinds of sporting games for our age group, things like croquet, badminton, and pickleball? And yes, in fact, we've been working with, if you're familiar with the property just to our north, there is a set of ball fields there. And there's some stuff there as well that's not used anymore. There's some racquetball courts there, and there is a concrete court that sits there that's just a piece of concrete, doesn't do anything. That's managed by Lexington County, and that agency is called Recreations and Aging. Okay? They never talk about that last part. They talk about recreation, but they're in charge of recreation and aging. I have talked to them about putting those two words together and bringing a pickleball court to there. They're not opposed to it, but they're not going to spend any money on it or do the work. They've even talked to me about how it would need to be a temporary structure that could go up and down to get out of their way when they want to do football practice, although I would put it in a place where they don't do football practice. So I'm keeping on what I call warming the soil there, and I'd encourage y'all to do that as well. Lexington County Parks and Recreation and Aging. That's the people. Their phone number is on the fence on that board. You can just copy the phone number off and call them. And I'd encourage you to do that. There are some tennis courts that are already over there that are close by that are owned by Lexington County Parks and Recreations. And of course, you're welcome to use those anytime you want to. And I understand you can play pickleball on a tennis court, but I don't know how you do that because you can't mark the tennis court to fit. It's smaller, so it's there, but you really can't line it off for that. So there are some struggles with that. That land was part of the gift from the Ginyard family. It was given at the same time the old mansion house and the vision for a retirement community was given. It came with the stipulation that we can't build any buildings in it. But I believe that would still allow us to do something like a place where we could do pickleball and croquet and badminton, and there is a clearing down there where all that could happen. So we just never had enough interest to do that. So if we get enough interest to do that, because I'm spending your money, so if you want that done, we can do that. We also, because we're a charitable nonprofit, if somebody says, well, I want that to happen and I want to head up a little campaign to raise the money to do that, we can do that. And it's one of those rare cases where in this land of ours where you can have your cake and eat it too, because you can build it with charitable contributions and then you can use it as long as it's open to everybody. So there are ways to get that done. And, you know, there's, like that area is down there. We have not planted any trees in that because we always use it for family day. We need it to set a tent up. We're especially going to need it now that we have expanded to the maximum point now on this campus for the number of residents. So that's another reason why it'd be really nice to go down there and put something nice and flat so that it's ready and in good shape when we want to put the tents up for family day, and also then available to all these other things you're talking about. We've heard a little bit of interest from time to time, but I hear more interest than I've ever heard about an idea of a dog park. So that adds the other feature of we got to get water wherever we do that. And once again, I think the area where that ends up is somewhere in the forest, but you got to get water and some power there for that to work well. So, we've already kind of toyed with that idea. Asking for an update on the pub. So that's a bistro and pub update. I'll do it one time. So we showed you, or I think some of you weren't here then, but we showed you as many as we could under those COVID restrictions, what we had in mind to do with the renovation and relocation of the bistro pub. So the bistro expands to the west toward the pond and adds a really nice pub setting to the bistro. It gets some better areas for parking things like scooters and those sorts of things, and when you need those, and just does a complete renovation and redo of that space. We got a thumbs up on that from the groups that met. We got a thumbs up on that from the board, so that is in process. The plans are almost finished, so it took designing the building renovation, the building addition, then designing the bar, and then designing the kitchens. We're going to redo that complete servery in there as well to make that more usable. So all of that's been done. It's right now ready to go to permitting, and then it'll get under construction. The commitment from GMK is who did the design and will do the construction. Their commitment is that they'll have it completely finished by December 31 of this year. So we'll be ready to use it in 2022. So that's where that's at. Thank you for asking. Question is about, was there any plans to continue the sidewalk all the way around? And there's a few areas where the sidewalk is not there and is broken. We finished with the construction, so I can tell you that there's no actual plan sitting anywhere on paper that says this is what we'd like to do. I have noticed that as we finish that up, that not all those areas got sidewalks. We're going to look at that. I'm going to stop just a little short of making you a promise because we have to keep a fire lane open all the way around. And I don't know that we can pull that off and add a sidewalk and meet what the requirements of the city would be. Have to get all that approved. But yes, if we can do that, we will. Rather than, I'll just say the answer and you'll know what the question was. Our property line goes to C Avenue. So we own all the way to C, all the way down through there. Till you see those little houses that start on the right-hand side of C, that's where our property line stops. So we back up pretty much to those apartments on the east side and to C Avenue on the north side, okay? But every stitch of that land past where you saw us working, every stitch of that is designated as wetlands. And we can't do anything to it except maintain it in its present condition.
No trails?
No trails, can't cut any trees, can't dig any dirt, can't do anything. So we do sneak in there and cut some vines. because we've got some wisteria vines that are trying to kill the trees. So we do slide down there and cut a wisteria vine every now and then just to keep them under control. But we're not supposed to be doing anything to that area at all. That's, again, takes a special permit to do anything. We had to have a permit and pay mitigation fees to put that little exit across the C Avenue. Even though that water is just in a deep ditch and it was just a creek this wide at that point, we still had to have that. And that was hard to get. Yes, I'm going to give you some real easy ones. We're reprogramming those thermostats. They will sit on automatic, and that's where they will stay, so you can't touch a button and mess them up. And the up arrow will make it warmer, and the down arrow will make it cooler. And that's it.
But not yet.
They're working on them right now. They are in the process of reprogramming them as we speak. So it is coming very soon. There is a button in the very middle of that thermostat, and that's the one that keeps changing the mode. And if you change it to where the big A comes up with a circle around it, that's the mode it should be in. That's the one where the arrows will work. So let me tell you a bit about the system you have in this new building. It is called a VRF system. It works off of refrigerant, whether it's heating or cooling, but it's much more sophisticated than a heat pump. So if on the north side of the building people are cold and they're looking to get a little heat, and on the other side where the sun's shining somebody is warm and they're looking to get a little bit of air conditioning, this thing moves the refrigerant back and forth. So as it draws heat off of the hot unit, it takes that over to the cold unit. As it draws cold off of the hot unit, it takes it over to in other words, the refrigerant moves, and that's what changes it. It's a very efficient system. It's a very expensive system, but Dominion helped pay for that system with a rebate because it uses so much less energy. So it's going to be a really good system for us, but it's sophisticated. But that's the problem with those thermostats, is because the system's sophisticated, they are. But they're sophisticated enough that we can simply program them to work in fully automatic mode and stay that way. So if you go to a really expensive hotels, you'll find that same system with an up arrow and a down arrow. So you've got the residential thermostat rather than the hotel thermostat, but we're going to make it work more like the hotel thermostat that says, I'm a little cold, make me warmer, touch the up arrow a couple of times. I'm a little cold or a little warm, make me colder, touch the down arrow a couple of times. So it's up for hotter, down for colder, and it'll just switch. It'll do whatever you say. It's not air conditioning and heating. It's a variable refrigerant system, so it just does what you say. If you ask it to get 1 degree warmer, it's going to make it 1 degree warmer. You ask it to get 2 degrees colder, it's going to get 2 degrees colder. So it's a really good system. It'll do exactly what you want to do. Once you get it set, you won't want to touch it. You'll go, this is where I'm comfortable. Maybe on the afternoon when the sun hits, I hit the down temperature 1 degree, and that's what I do. Once you learn what to do, that's all you'll have to do. When we put together something with pictures to try to tell you how to use it, and that's when I called John Ginyard, who sold us the system, his company, Hon Mason, and said, does this thermostat have to be this complicated? Because I told you when we started that these complicated thermostats just drive us crazy. And he said, no, it doesn't, because it has lockouts on it and it has settings on it. You can just set it and lock it so that it stays that way. I said, then why didn't you set it up that way? He said, we should have, but we will. So they are. I would say, and this, I'm going to do an educated guess, I would say we would hire about 60 people right now if we could find them.
60?
About 60 across the campus. And we do continue to lose people. That's a frustration. Some of that's happened in the culinary program because those folks there are lots of jobs. Everybody's advertising, everybody's hiring. So when somebody lures them away with this idea of high tips, it does work and they do leave sometimes. Some of them do come back because sometimes that's not the way it turns out, but that's an issue. That door also is something that you should be able to access. It has a threshold issue. They had to cut that door. it's hard to really imagine what used to be there, but the dirt went up to the second floor on that building on that side. They dug out that much to build the new building. So that door was a solid concrete poured wall that they cut that door in. But when they cut that in and did it, once they opened it up and I could see it, it was like, well, guys, this threshold is going to kill somebody. It's got a threshold that's like this tall. So they've had to reorder and are having to make the threshold for that. That's why it's locked and why you can't get in and out of it right now. We will get that one where it's open in the daytime, assuming that we don't have any strangers that show up at that door. But we think it's tucked away enough that it can be open and you can use it and get in and out of the wellness center without us having to have that one locked right now. That's where we're headed with that one. She's asking about bus transportation being offered again to go to symphonies and the art museum and places like that. I don't know the answer to that, and I'm sorry, but that is one of those, that's a COVID thing, and we've got to get to the point where we can get on that bus and be safe. And that one, we're going out into the public. I've really got to be sure that I comply with the rules and regulations out there in the bigger world. Inside here, I got a little more leadway, but once we head out there, then we're open to that public scrutiny and need to do it right. So that's what's holding us up there. But I just don't know the answer. We're listening and watching everything that comes out, and things are changing. The CDC issued some more changes even yesterday that have to do specifically with nursing homes. But even that, when you've heard the CDC announce a change, CMS, that's Medicare, DHEC, that's South Carolina, have got to catch up to that because that's who regulates us. So the CDC may say we can do one thing on this healthcare side, but until CMS and DHEC say, yes, we agree with that, we're kind of locked out of just following just the CDC's guidelines. That's more than you asked, but while you're asking that, I'll let you know that because there are changes that are coming over here. But they're going to come out in phases while we wait for DHEC to catch up. That's just the way it is. So what was just said was a thank you to all the staff at Still Hopes for how much they care and how much they speak and know your name and are doing the right thing. That's what we want to hear. I want you to tell the world every time you experience that, and I want you to come and tell me when you experience anything else. Does that make sense? Okay, thank you. So the question was, could we set up a table or have a place so that single residents who are new can find somebody to have dinner with when they want to stay and have dinner rather than taking back to their apartment and eating alone? And I think we can work on that. So yes, thank you for that. I'll get with the culinary staff and we'll figure that out. I don't know. I don't want to sit here and obligate them to how they're going to do it, but that's a very good idea and reasonable. Thank you. So Francis asked, do I know when we're going to go back to West Columbia to see about getting the C Avenue gate that's on the north end of our campus opened during the day? And y'all have seen that. It was open all through construction, and now it's closed and locked. When we put that entrance in, we had to get permission to do that from the city of West Columbia, from the Zoning Appeals Board. The Zoning Appeals Board started looking at it pretty favorably, and then there was a neighbor who expressed some pretty outlandish reasons why we should not get that entrance open. And one of them, I'll show you how outlandish they got. One of them was, if you let those old people drive out of that, they'll be running over those kids at the ball field all the time. How many of y'all have run over kids at a ball field? That was just crazy. But that's the kind of stuff that this family was saying. So at the end of the day, the only way we got permission to put it in was to agree that once construction was done, we would lock it and give the key to the fire department. So that's what we've done. Once the Zoning Appeals Board makes a decision, you can't ask them to look at it again for 12 months. Obviously, it's been longer than 12 months. We knew better than to go back and ask why we had 100 subcontractors parking out there on the street and throwing down their candy wrappers and all that stuff, and us having to clean up behind them all the time. So we've waited. The answer, I think, Francis, to that question is that we're about to do that. I don't know that for an absolute fact, but we have been approached actually by somebody from the city suggesting that maybe we should do that now. So our attorney actually has drafted the application. It's on my desk for review, and we're having a discussion tomorrow morning about that application and to finalize it. So I think it's going to go in. We're going to run it back by this one city official to be sure we are meeting what they expect if they're going to try to support that for us, and then we'll do that. We will not go unprepared next time. We have never had anything happen at Still Hopes other than the community love us. So it caught us completely off guard to get to that meeting and have one family member at one house who was saying, it was actually two people, but in the same house, who were saying they shouldn't be allowed to do that. We've never had that before, so we were not prepared. We didn't invite a lot of y'all to go with us. Y'all are citizens of West Columbia as well, and y'all have a voice. So we will have a voice the next time we go, and we will let you know when that is and invite you to go be part of that voice with us. Because I think it's important, and I do not believe that there's anything unreasonable about expecting a third exit off of this 38 acres, when in fact there are houses in the avenues that have 3 driveways for one house. So that's the way I see it, but I didn't make any headway that night there. Thanks for coming. Bring a friend next time. We'll do it again. Thank you. Y'all enjoy your afternoon.